Started in law enforcement in 2007 at the Lawrence County Sheriff's Office. I was a jail officer. I worked in the jail from 2007 to 2009, where I would the mandate at Forsyth, well, actually the Macon Regional Academy in Macon, Georgia, at the time. From there, we transitioned back and forth from the Regional Academy to Forsyth. And I graduated from mandate in 2009. And from there, I came back to the Sheriff's Office. I worked in the jail as a transport deputy. As a transport deputy, you know, we go pick up people, bring them back to the Sheriff's Office. So I did that for about 3 months. And about 2009 to 10, I got promoted to patrol. I was a patrol deputy for 5 years, up under some great supervisors, very knowledgeable. From there, from 2010 to 2005, I was promoted to the traffic unit as a traffic unit deputy, as a corporal. I worked on the traffic unit from 2015 to 2020, and then I transferred from there to West Lawrence Middle School as I was a school resource officer. And I ended my tenure there in 2021, which I transferred to Wilkinson County Sheriff's Office as a deputy sheriff. As a deputy sheriff there, I patrolled, answered calls. We did our own investigations because we didn't have many investigators, so we pretty much did everything from, you know, answering the call to if we needed to be investigated to making the arrest. So we pretty much did everything as any investigator would do at Wilkinson County Sheriff's Office. So from there, I worked there from 2001 to this year, and I transferred to Fort Valley Police Department with Chief DJ Flores, which he offered me a position as a sergeant to come over there and help out for a little while, and you know, to the sheriff election is decided upon in November 5th of this year. I have a patrol shift, so I have guys that work up under me. I supervise to make sure that we are doing everything we need to do for the city of Fort Valley. So.
Okay. You were at Lawrence County for a long time. What made you decide to leave?
My decision to run for sheriff. I always wanted to be the sheriff of Lawrence County, so whenever it was getting close to the time, I decided that, hey, you know, it's time for me to run. That's something that God laid on my heart. And I asked around to talk to some people to let them know that, hey, look, I'm thinking about running for sheriff. And they asked me for what are my plans, and I told them my plans. And they said, hey, look, if this is something that you want to do, we will support you 100%. So I talked with my family about it. They was excited with me running, so I decided to go ahead and leave Lawrence County Sheriff's Office to run for sheriff. It's also for my family as well, you know, because with the things that's going on in the community, you know, we have a lot of high crime, a lot of gang activity, a lot of theft, a lot of drugs that's been imported in from the interstate. You know, we have the interstate, state routes. So if we can get out there and be proactive and do what we need to do, we can limit that. So it's mainly more for my family, because if I could protect them the way they need to be protected, it's going to protect everybody's family the same way. Well, I always been a sheriff deputy. This is my first time ever being a police officer. So I worked through, like I said, I started in the jail in 2007. I learned the jail, I learned the booking process, reading of the dispositions whenever somebody is either they're gonna go to prison or if they're gonna be released from the jail. That's very important because you need to know that stuff. The booking process, the bonding process, you know, the housing of the individuals that come in the sheriff's office, just how it operates within the jail. The jail is the second most important part of being the sheriff, because if that's not ran properly, it's going to start costing a lot of money if you don't do what you need to do for the people within inside the facility. From there, I worked myself all the way up through the rankings to becoming the deputy sheriff, understanding the law, knowing when you can lock somebody up, when you're not, not violating nobody's rights, like Fourth Amendments, Fifth Amendment, that stuff is important to know. Even when it comes to handling of the calls, the training out there to understand when you do need to make an arrest and when you don't need to make an arrest, just understanding of the domesticated calls. Along with that, just my years of experience on patrol, traffic, and the school. I've taken the classes for supervision and management. And part of that is knowing the policies, things that you could do and what you can't do as a person in a leadership role. And with the management courses, it goes over budgeting, making sure that, hey, you don't misappropriate funds, making sure you stand within the guidelines of, the funds so you won't over budget or under budget. So make sure that, hey, all this is, right. So if you go over the budget, then that can become a problem whenever you're pulling from taxpayers' dollars. And you don't want to put in too much money for the taxpayers because then you won't be in office very long. So, but my qualifications in the years of experience will qualify me for being a sheriff. It's a lot. You're dealing with, first, the morale that's at the sheriff's office, losing of deputies to other agencies, the management, the way people are being treated at the sheriff's office. Not only that, you also have, the gang activities. People who are associated with gangs. We're going to do what we need to do to protect the citizens. But if you don't have great quality leadership and it rolls down to the deputies, then you're going to have a major problem. And with my leadership and my expertise, we're going to treat people right. We're going to make sure that we're giving them what they need to be effective and efficient in the community. So as right now, I think the biggest issue is going to be morale at the sheriff's office.
And so, just to further touch on that, when you say morale, are you speaking from your own firsthand experience, or are you speaking from other people's experience who have told you about that?
Well, my experience too, working up under the sheriff, certain meetings we had within. During COVID time, I had the captain at one time told me, you got to be here, if not, you'll be released. I wish I had that on documentation, but that was sad. So I experienced that personally. And I also experienced that, hey, if you could do a better job than the sheriff, why don't you run for sheriff? So, take that into consideration. And, it's like, hey, look, I can do a better job. I know how to be a sheriff. I've been a sheriff. We all been a sheriff. So we're going to do what we need to do to ensure that we can give the deputies what they need, give the citizen what they need, and do a great job in the community because the citizens deserve it. And as a person who's been in a leadership role, we're going to give them that. That's what the tax dollars pay. They pay us to do them a good service, and we're going to do them a good service. In my opinion, I think the sheriff need to be, which we know that we have to take care of stuff in the office. We're going to take care of stuff in the office, but I'm not going to show up every 4 years. You're going to see me every day. I'm doing a service to the community, so you're going to see me. I'm going to be visible and vigilant. I'm going to hold myself accountable. Accountability starts with me as the sheriff. So if I'm doing what I need to do, it's right, I know it's going to go down to everybody else. So accountability, holding myself responsible, and doing what I need to do for the people who's working for the citizens, which that'd be the employees of Lawrence County and myself. Hands-on, working with them, if they have any questions, as far as technology, we can give them the technology they need. I think what they have is inside the patrol cars now is it's almost like a computer, but it's not a computer. We want to give them actual computers where they can do the work from within the car. By them doing work inside the car, that'll keep them more visible in the community. they won't have to constantly come back to the sheriff's office. So if somebody called 911, that's very critical. We all know that's critical. We need that officer to be able to respond in a reasonable time. So, so if we could get them equipped with the computers where they could do everything from the car, like run tags, run licenses, get them certified to, check for anything that's going to help them be effective and efficient. We want to provide them with that. Technology is becoming a thing now in law enforcement, so we want to give them that so they can be effective. And like I said, once they get those equipped in the car, they can be out there proactive. They don't have to. They can run everything from the car for us, like driver license, check criminal backgrounds if the person has a warrant. And if it alerts that person has a warrant, then it will alert the other officers so they can respond. And one of the things that I mentioned a while back is that we need more deputies. We need more deputies in the community. So one of my plans is to put 2 deputies in each zone so the response time can be faster. I think that's a need for the citizens. I think the citizens need that. And we're going to do everything we can to provide what they need.
All right, thank you. So I'm sorry, just to really quick before we move on from that, 2 more questions for you about the biggest problems in the county. So you said during COVID, I'm sorry, I missed it. They said what to you?
Well, one captain, which I'm not going to say his name, did say that, hey, we will fire you.
They said they will fire you for what?
Let me get it right. If we don't show up,
Show up
or
to
if because COVID was going on at that time, but if you get sick, you can't come. I mean, if you get sick with COVID, you're going to be out. But
So they were saying if you call out sick with COVID-19, you could get fired. So meaning they wanted you to work if you had COVID-19.
right. Well, the way that it was said, if COVID was to come out, then it's like, well, we go home. It's like, well, if you go home, you get fired.
And that message
Was directly to me.
Directly to you.
Yes.
Did that? I know you said a captain told you that, but was that messaging coming from the sheriff?
No, that was coming from one of his command staff.
From one of his? And do you think the sheriff was aware of that?
I don't think he was aware of that. But at that time, when COVID came out in 2020, we did have a meeting in the deputy's day room. And that was said to me personally. It was all in there. And some of those guys no longer work at the sheriff's office. But the captain said, if somebody gets COVID, and I said, well, we go home. He said, if you go home, you get fired. So that's how it was said, verbatim.
And the sheriff was there in that room?
He wasn't in there. He wasn't in the room. So it was the changing of the sheriff back in 2017. We lost a lot of experienced deputies. I don't know the reason for them leaving. I'm not going to say that they left because of the way the sheriff's office was handled back then. But I can tell you that the people that started with me are no longer there. So that should speak volume with the experience that's gone. I'm not saying that the deputies there now are not good. But what I'm saying is the people that was there when I was there are no longer there anymore. If elected November 5th, which, we want to get a deputy more money. I think the pay could be a lot better. They just got a raise that I seen. I think it's $50,000 to $57,000. So since they got that raise, we want to come in and give them another raise. So we want to give them what they're worth, But in this business, you could give them $1 million and your life is way more important. So we want to still try to increase, give incentives. I want to try to help with education, give them more classes, what they need. I want to get it back to the way it used to be, but with a new spin. There's too many majors out there. I don't know why would you need 3 majors, but we'll go back to 1 major. We'll have more deputies, like I said, in the community because that's needed for the citizens. So we'll reallocate positions to put some of the positions that's in the office back in the community. I think that's the priority of life is always going to be number 1. So we definitely want to make sure that we have enough coverage that was, like I said before, if somebody called 911, we want to get there safe and efficient. So we can answer that call and make sure we do what we need to do for the citizen. We're going to give them great quality service. So one of the things that I'm going to do is give them raises. They just got a raise, so we want to give them another raise. The secretaries, I think, need raise, the Jeff staff. So we're going to look into that to see what we're going to do to provide everybody with a decent salary because of inflation. Adding more deputies to the community, give them great technology to be able to be effective in their jobs. And just be more of a approachable as a sheriff. Another thing that I had the idea is we want to do town hall meetings at the sheriff's office with citizens who have concerns. So we want to try to do that quarterly. So if a citizen has a concern, it's a courthouse within the sheriff's office. I would love to have any citizens who have any complaints to come to the sheriff's office. We'll put it out over the media, the Facebook page. So whoever have concerns, they could come to the sheriff's office and we could sit down and talk about it. I think that will help us a whole lot in what's going on in the community, even though we'll be out there patrolling. But some people wouldn't know how to start the complaint. So if we have town hall meetings and, have refreshments and get them to come to the sheriff's office, we could sit down and we could talk about it and we can address some things and do what we need to do for everybody. I have 2 deputies in each zone because Lawrence County is like the 3rd largest county in the state of Georgia. The biggest part of Lawrence County is the south end of the county. We want to have 2 deputies in each zone where it'd be enough coverage. So if somebody calls 911, we could have 2 deputies responding from that zone. So you have the north, the south, and the east. So each zone will have 2 deputies. And the way that we would do that is we would reallocate positions within the sheriff's office and put certain positions that's inside the sheriff's office into the community. And we will provide those deputies with everything they need to be effective and efficient.
All right, thank you. Which positions do you think you would like to make deputies?
Which position I would?
Which positions would you like to reallocate, like you were saying, into making deputies?
Well, I have to go in first and see what we have first before I say what positions. Me and my command staff will say, hey, we probably need to pull from this spot, and we'll put those positions back in the community. We need to see where we're hurting at first, what need to be fixed. Because being a sheriff, you just don't want to go in there and start moving stuff around, and then you have a problem here that you're like, well, we just pulled this guy, so now we got to put him back. So you got to be have a solid foundation first, because if you don't have a solid foundation and you just start pulling, then it's going to crumble. So we will sit down, we'll collectively think where we need to pull from, so we can pull those deputies and put them out in the community.
All right, thank you. And then just to make it really clear, you're not saying you're looking to eliminate any people from the sheriff's office. You're just looking at moving them around. Is that correct?
Right. Everybody need a job. We live in hard times. We don't need to fire anybody. But what we will do, we'll reallocate the positions. If it's not needed in the sheriff's office, we need to put that position out in the community. So people probably ask, well, how would you do that? Well, some people drive pickup trucks. Some people drive unmarked vehicles. So what we'll do, we'll trade that vehicle in for a marked unit, and we'll equip that vehicle with what it needs to be effective and efficient in the community, and we'll put that deputy out in the community helping, responding, and answering the calls. So I know it was said a while back that I was wanting to get rid of 2 people. You never want anybody to lose their job, because if they lose their job, then they got to find another job. You don't know what it's going to affect. You know, if it's going to affect their home life. We're not in the business of firing anybody, but we will reallocate some positions. Gangs, you know, we got hybrid gangs here. And it's just not only in the city of Dublin. They travel all over Lawrence County. We're dealing with that. We're dealing with the mental health. I think we need resources for families that have to endure certain mental health issues. We get called upon a lot as officers, deputies, that, hey, you know, we have somebody who's having a mental health crisis. You know, we're not totally equipped to handle certain mental health cases. We have training called CIT, Crisis Intervention Training, to help us identify if this person has a mental delay. So we need to come up with ways, better ways to come up with resources to help families with dealing with mental health issues. And I think it's an epidemic within itself, along with the gang activity, deaths, and the drugs coming into our community. Like I said, one of my things, I worked on the interstate. You know, it's out there. So we need to stop it from coming into our community. And the reason why I say that, because once the drugs get into the household, that changes the dynamic of the investigation. So with that being said, once it gets into the house, you know, those individuals are going to distribute out to the community. So we don't need our citizens getting poisoned by people who won't just go get a job. So it's my job as the sheriff to stop that. And we're going to stop it. We're not going to try, we're going to stop it. And, you know, anybody who's going to wreak havoc on the citizens, well, hey, look, I say people who commit crimes are too comfortable in our community. It's my job as the sheriff to make them uncomfortable. And we're going to do that. The citizens pay us tax dollars to go out there and do what we need to do for them. So we're not going to sit around anymore. We're going to get out there and get the job done. And that's another reason why I'm running for sheriff, because we got to get it done.
You said mental health, gangs, drugs. Okay. With mental health, you talked about crisis intervention training. When you were at the sheriff's office, did you all go through that?
Well, some of them went through it. I didn't get the opportunity to go through it, but I still deal with the fact that CIT training with dealing with people who has mental delays, and some of that stuff is caused by, you know, drugs activity, you know, using drugs that put them in a different state of mind. So with that being said, it's making the mental health crisis huge. It's becoming an epidemic within our own community. Families are having a hard time with it. And, you know, as a sheriff, we need to find better resources. We need to partner with mental health and figure out what we can do to better service, you know, individuals who do have crisis that need help in the community. Like I said, you know, as an aspiring sheriff, you know, my job is to find that answer for them. You know, go to legislator, like, hey, we need help. We need, you know, since Central State closed down, you know, we're having more and more, you know, mental health calls, you know, where people need to go to the hospital to get, you know, medically mandated to the state. So we need to find resources to help our citizens with situations like that. You know, you see it every day. You see individuals walking on the street that have some mental delays. And what I mean by that is probably got, you know, hooked on some type of, you know, substance. So, and as a sheriff, I have a passion for people. And to be able to do this job, you need to have passion for people. So we need to do what, as a leader in the community, we need to help as many people as we can. Can we help everybody? Probably not, but we're going to try. And we're going to do our best at it.
Thank you. So going to the other thing that you said, drugs and gangs. Through the sheriff's office, how do you think, if you were elected sheriff, you could best tackle those two problems? Like, do you have any specific ideas? Do you have any plans? Do you have any strategies that you think can bring down drugs and gangs in Lawrence County?
Yes, first you need to know the community. As an officer, deputy, you need to know the community. You need to know where these activities are happening. Concentrated patrol, get intel. You got to work the streets. That's part of becoming an effective officer. You got to know, okay, I know at this time this happened. And if you know it, hey, be vigilant. Be vigilant. But I do want to create a local task force to have those guys equipped with what they need. And eventually probably talk to other sheriffs in the surrounding county and see if we all can collectively come up with a task force, because it's just not only happening in Lawrence County, it's happening. And I think Lawrence County touched 7 counties, if I'm not mistaken. Get with the local sheriffs, see what we can do to come up with a local task force centrally. So if we have an issue over here, we got more manpower. If they got an issue, we could go over there and help them. Sharing information, because crime travels. It doesn't see anything. If a person who want to commit a crime has the opportunity, they're going to take it. That's one of the things. Create a local task force if possible. What we'll have to do, we'll have to sit down collectively with my command staff that I'll have at the time and see what would be the best way to form that task force and let it be effective and efficient in our community. We'll need a recruitment officer. We can go to schools, seniors who's about to graduate, who are not planning to go to college and they're about to turn 18. We can do recruitment, see if they want to come work at the sheriff's office. We can go to the local malls, local hosts, local events. The resource center over here in the Captain Gray Resource Center. We can hold functions there to try to recruit citizens to come in and work at the sheriff's office. So recruitment will be one of our number one things to do as far as recruiting new people at the sheriff's office. Well, I've been gone now since 2021. I really can't, I could tell you what's not working. I don't think the sheriff has been more present in the community. And the reason why I say that from my personal experience, what have he done in the 8 years since he took office? Almost everybody in the community should know who the sheriff is. Most of the people that I talk to in the community doesn't know who the sheriff is. And to me, it's sad. If you're not out here walking the streets, walking downtown Dublin, going to the communities, holding community functions yourself, then nobody will know who the sheriff is. You're not gonna know me by a Facebook page. You're gonna know me by me being in the community, working hands-on with everybody. I think people will love that. I think they will gravitate to that more. And it shows that, hey, he's just not a sheriff that's gonna sit behind the desk. He's gonna be out here working with his guys. And I think that builds rapport with the citizens. The last sheriff, Bill Harrell, he was out there. If we have a wreck, you turn around, you see him out there working with you, directing traffic. He exemplified leadership. So that's the same leadership that I want to exemplify when I'm a sheriff here in Lawrence County. And another thing too, that I would like to implement is having more involvement, not only just with the community, the adults, we have more involvement with the youth. Show them a different perspective of law enforcement. Show them that, hey, we're not bullies. We're here, we local heroes who's trying to inspire you to do something great. You know, I know we have a CHAMPS program, which is good. I think it's perfect. But we need to have other programs. You know, if we got a kid that's straying away, we need to find a way to bring it back in. And what I mean that we can, like I said, I did my researches. Other sheriff's office in the communities, I see where they put on community functions for the youth. I want to do that here. We never had that here. And I can say that from my experience working in the sheriff's office for the time. We never put on any functions for the community to have all the kids that come. You know, we can get the blow up slides. We can have the game truck. You know, just to show them that, hey, we care. So as the aspiring sheriff, we're going to do what we need to do to better the quality of life, to build a rapport with the community, and show everybody, hey, we care, and we're going to do it. So I'm going to exemplify that. I'm going to be the example. I hold myself accountable for that. I grew up in government housing. We didn't have a whole lot back then. I think this guy needs to be recognized, and I'm probably not going to say his name on camera, but he worked for Housing Authority as a Dublin police officer. Him and another guy, and I could say his name, which was Darryl Moore, they got all the kids in the government housing, and they came up with a program called Dublin Junior Police. And I think that was one of the greatest ideas that they could have came up with back then. That was during the early 90s. As an aspiring sheriff, I would like to put programs on like that. I think the deputies that work in the sheriff's office need to also be members of the community, because who wouldn't know the community better than the people who live here? Now, I'm not saying that outside deputies don't deserve, because they do. Everybody deserves a job. But we will definitely influence our local youth to aspire them to be, you know, sheriffs one day, or even police officers with the city of Dublin, you know. So that was a great program, and that's something that I like to put on. You know, they could be a deputy for a week. You know, we could go around to the local businesses. It would be off-duty deputies coming in to do this. We won't have them actually doing this while, you know, we're actually working, because anything can happen, and we don't need that on our hands. So that's one of the programs. And another one, that if we got our troubling team, you know, we can implement the Beyond Scare program, you know, at the sheriff's office. I think that could be a program that, you know, if it's parents having a hard time with their youth, you know, we can get them out there to the sheriff's office and we could talk with them. I want to say Macon does it. Sheriff's office does the Beyond the Scare program.
Beyond Scare?
Yes.
I haven't heard of that.
You never heard of that?
No, actually, but I'll look it up.
Check into it. I want to say that they do that program there. Mm-hmm. But that's something I would love to implement here. You know, we get it all the time, where citizens called us and say, "Hey, look, we're having an issue with our child who they doing X, Y, Z. Can y'all come talk to them?" Okay, we'll be glad to come talk to them. So that was just a thought. That's something I probably would like to implement in the sheriff's office. If we got, you know, teens who are going down the wrong road. Excuse me, I'm sorry. With that program, I think would be a good program, and that's something that I will talk with my command staff first before we implement it. You know, even get feedback from the citizens, see what they think about it. But I've seen the program on television, and it seems to work pretty well. Other programs, you know, host flag football, for kids who wanted to play football and they couldn't play. Get in the community and host flag football, start a program, football, basketball, baseball, just give them an opportunity to do something. They say outer hands is the devil's playground, so we want to be proactive with our youth in the community. If you don't have great leaders, you're going to lose people. And in my management class, and if you want to add this to it, the instructor said, if you lose personnel, it's not a personnel issue, it's a management issue. And, I think Sheriff Dean is a great man. I wholeheartedly believe he's a great man. From my heart to his heart, I believe he's a great man. But the leadership at the sheriff's office and all the personnel that has left since I was there until now, something is wrong. And I encourage the citizens, don't take it face value, do your own research. Because from my mouth right now, it's hearsay. But if you do your own research and go to the commissioner's office and ask for all the people that have been there since he took office in 2017 until now, he lost a lot of people. When I worked up under Sheriff Harold, and I say that the sheriff said this on one of the debates, that the morale is bad, it's a lot of bickering going on out there, and you're top heavy. That's what he said 8 years ago during the debate. It's facts, you can look it up. Since he took office, he has not changed one single personnel. It's the same as if Sheriff Harold was still in office. Matter of fact, it's more. It's more lieutenants, it's more majors, it's more captains. We didn't have that. And we ran effective and efficient whenever I was just a deputy. The more personnel that you hire, the more command staff, the more majors, the more lieutenants, that's more money you have to pay them. So where are we going wrong with that? We don't need all the upper echelons. And Sheriff Dean said this himself, and I will send it to you. We don't need 20 chiefs to run the sheriff's office. We just need great leadership. So if you're giving all the people that, and then this is the quote that they made, promise made, promise kept. Who was the promise made to? Who did you keep it to? It shouldn't have took 8 years to get the deputies the raise that you gave them now. That should have been something you gave 8 years ago. And they just got a raise, and I'm thankful that they got a raise. And when I take office, we're going to give them another raise because they deserve it. Anybody who works on the front line in our community to protect the people in our community, to protect our kids, to protect our schools, protect our loved ones, need more than what they got now. And as a sheriff to be and aspiring to be, I'm going to ensure that they get what they need to be able to take care of their families. Like I said, I thank God for what they got now, but they need more.
Mm-hmm. How much more do you think you would like to see them get in that second raise?
For what I see, it's a $7,000 raise that they have on paper. Mm-hmm. I would like to have the starting pay at 55, and then they could top out at 62 or 63, because I think 63 would probably put them at a $7,000 raise again. That was something that I would have to sit down and speak with the commissioners about. We would have to look over the budget, because I said before, you don't want to misappropriate funds, and you don't want to promise something that you can't keep. That's the worst thing you could do, being in this position. That's one of my objectives. I don't really like saying goals, because if you say, well, this is my goal, and you don't reach that goal, that's almost like a failure. But if you say, hey, this is one of my objectives, this is something without limitations, that means we're going to work towards it and we're going to try to get it. They deserve more. So, and that's the sheriff to be. We're going to do everything we can for him. And we're going to treat him right. And, you know, I always say this quote: everything that you do is fair, may not always be right. But if you do what's right, you know you've been fair. And we're going to do what's right. But we need to let the citizen know it's okay for change. You know, change is scary. I hate change. But sometimes change is always good for the betterment of the citizens. And all I'm asking is for an opportunity to show you that the sheriff could do more in the county than what he's doing now. And if elected November the 5th, I will let my work do the talking.